Welcome to the Heroic Barbell Podcast, where we teach you how to be the best version of yourself through strength training, biblical wisdom, and living a heroic lifestyle.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Konnichiwa.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Heroic Barbell Podcast. This is episode 2. Last time we did an introduction. I told you all why I was doing a podcast. Because Lord knows everyone's going to be like, why the F is Andrew Torrance doing a podcast? Told you why. And then we also talked about Carrie, talked about his life.
Totally not a weeaboo. Don't tell anybody
Yeah.
I'm a weeaboo.
Carrie is not a weeaboo. Is weeaboo like a Japanese word? Or is it something made up?
No. It's... I forgot the etymology. I think it's... There's weeaboo and westaboo. And westaboo is the reverse direction.
Oh, okay.
Generally, it's some Asian or whatever.
So
It's the
westaboo, a westaboo would be a Japanese person trying to be American.
That's the idea.
Or Western.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
Western culture is absolutely superior to, Japanese or Korean or whatever culture.
Okay. All right.
That's the thought.
Yeah, I gotcha. Cool. Okay, so since we talked about Carrie and got his background in the last episode,
Maybe we should just do a new intro and pretend some of this didn't happen.
why?
All right.
What's wrong with
Anyways,
this?
so a bit of my background on the last episode.
Yeah, we did Carrie's background last time and his life story, so this time we're going to cover myself. And what?
Nothing good.
We're going to do my story. And then we have some lightning round questions to get to at the end. So we will take care of those. And then every episode after that will deal with its own topic. Hopefully we'll be able to stay on topic. We'll see. And, okay, so I'm going to start. I grew up a preacher's kid and was homeschooled by my mom. And that's the end. That kind of tells you everything you need to know. No, but, yeah, okay. Huh?
In Kentucky.
Yeah, in Kentucky. More the western part of the state, or maybe the central part of the state, which the culture is... Honestly, the culture in that part is a little bit closer to Midwestern.
Like Midwestern America. Oh,
yeah, Midwest America. More like Missouri. Of course, if you keep going west, you'll hit Missouri.
I just mean...
Geographically. But yeah, a little bit different than Eastern Kentucky, where I live now, where it's kind of like stereotypically Kentucky in Eastern Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up, I was homeschooled. Not a whole lot to say. Grew up in church.
Were you homeschooled, equivalently from kindergarten to high school? Were you...
Kindergarten to 6th grade. I tried going to a Christian school
Like a
in
Montessori
7th grade.
Or...
No. Just a Christian academy. Local Christian academy. 7th grade. Hated it. I got made fun of and picked on.
Okay.
I don't know. I was just very awkward. I know that a lot of kids at that age, around that age, do have a hard time not being awkward. And having come from the homeschool background, it, didn't help things.
No.
Because a lot of times homeschoolers can be a little awkward, especially when they're young. Now, I will say this. A lot of people think that if you're homeschooled, it just means that you have no social skills and you're going to be just this awkward, like, Asperger's person for the rest of your life.
No. That's not what it means.
That's not what happened. I'd like to think so. Maybe Carrie could vouch for me that I'm pretty normal now.
I am far weirder than you. Yes, you're pretty normal. No, you're
right. I mean, it's just one of those things that if you grow up in a different environment from a lot of people around you, you are going to have a somewhat different personality.
Definitely.
Based on that. And that was the case. Being homeschooled, I saw kids at church a couple times a week. That was about it. Then I went into this completely new environment in this Christian school where everyone already knew everybody. And, you know, I mean...
Kids are still kids.
Kids are still kids. And, I mean, it had its problems. It's a Christian school. So you can imagine there might be some complications that come with that. Not that I don't think Christian education is bad. Or I don't think it's bad. Sometimes things can be taken to extremes in an environment like that. You know, I can remember being told that going to the movies was bad while I was a student there, if that tells you anything. Yeah. So,
there's something to be said about
super strict, super conservative environment that just probably didn't help the kids that had been at that school most of their lives. And me coming in as a seventh grader with just a completely different personality. Yeah, I was very awkward. Had a hard time making good friends. I had friends. I was more disliked than liked, I would say, on the average.
When you say you were awkward, did you like put your foot in your mouth constantly? Would you actually say rude remarks? It
wasn't rude, just more like super weird. Like, I had a different interpretation of humor than most of the other students.
And it just, half the time it fell flat, and the other
fell
half the
flat,
time it wasn't.
And everyone thought I was weird.
And they treated you as such.
Yes. But like I was saying, after growing up, I've seen that in other kids around that age range. I've seen it happen to a lot of different kids. So I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for them, I guess. And I try to... I've done different stuff with like youth groups and different groups of kids over the years, and when I see a kid that's struggling like that, like I did, to fit in and to not be awkward, I try to help them if I can. You know, usually it's just being friendly with them. If they do say something that is obviously awkward and strange, I may say something that just kind of nudges them towards not realizing that that's nobody really thought that was funny. You know, I won't be that blunt, but you know, like that.
Well, you should.
You know, try to keep the other kids off of them.
Yeah.
And making them feel like a mutant or whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I only stayed there for 1 year because, like I said, I hated it. Convinced my parents to homeschool me again. I'll go ahead and say my mom did a great job homeschooling me.
You would say or would not say?
I would say.
Would say.
Yes. She taught me all the basics. I learned perfectly how to read and write and all my math facts. You know, there was just never any problem with it. I learned everything perfectly. As I got older and was doing high school and stuff, there were some times where, because I was so interested in math and physics, I may have been doing something kind of advanced that was maybe a little bit beyond her understanding. And at that point, it was a lot of self-teaching for myself. But it was still, she was still the teacher.
Yeah. In
the technical sense of the word. She still had to grade and give out the assignments and all that. So, yeah, thanks, Mom, for making me a smart person. Because if I had been in public school, I would not be as intelligent as I am today, I don't believe. I think homeschool has a lot of benefits when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I think it does.
It depends on the person, for sure.
It absolutely does.
But it worked for me. And it works for a lot of people that don't realize that it would work for them.
I think
a lot of families.
In my opinion, I think when it comes to homeschooling, a lot of people make the mistake that they don't. The parents don't socialize their kid. Though there's no reason at all. You know,
that's right.
In a sense, I think you could have been less awkward if your parents had, quote unquote, socialized you.
Yeah.
When I was, I went to a public school, but I did a lot of sports when I was growing up. Basically, since 4 years old, I was in t-ball, and I was doing something athletic all the way through. I think I stopped in middle school, but that was the only 2 years before before college that I wasn't doing anything athletic. Well, and senior year of high school.
Yeah. So this is a good segue for me to talk about like what I did athletically as a kid. Up until that 7th grade year, no sports. I played so many video games. I was so obsessed with video games.
So many Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Like, I would say I was borderline addicted to video games until I was about 13 or 14 years old.
It's ugly.
I can remember a couple, like, just small things, and it's not like, oh, this definitely means I was addicted to video games, but it's just kind of cute stories, maybe. One was, I was in Sunday school at church, and the Nintendo 64 had just come out, so I was, like, really excited about having one of those. And the Sunday school teacher asked for prayer requests, and I was like, can I pray for my Nintendo? So, I was probably like 6 years old when that happened. Yeah. And then
that's one of those looking back on it going, oh, crap.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I can remember times when maybe you're playing a game and, I grew up when everything had wires, so you pull the controller too far and the console falls over after it.
Disconnect.
Yeah. And all the crashy, bangy happens with that. And even if you're not that into video games, that happens to a $200 piece of electronic equipment, and you're kind of like, uh-oh.
Well, $200 at the time.
Yeah, $200 at the time.
It's like $300.
Yeah, the cheapest ones are $300 now.
Well, no. At the time, $200 had the same purchasing power as $300.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So.
Or whatever the exchange rate is.
But everyone, like I said, everyone kind of gets maybe a little drop in their stomach when that happens at first. But, at some point you might be kind of like, okay, it's no big deal. Everything's okay. I would, like, flip out. I would, like, think of a little kid flipping out about something. That was me. For a long time. So,
yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. Honestly, I just kind of grew out of it. Once I got into middle school, I started playing basketball. I wouldn't say I had fallen in love with basketball at this point, but I played. I enjoyed playing at least a little bit, or I wouldn't have done it. So I played in 7th grade for the school. Then when I was homeschooled, I was like, well, I still want to play basketball. And they had a homeschool basketball team that I played for. I played, and a lot of homeschooling communities will do this. You usually have a homeschoolers association. It's very local. They'll usually have what's called co-op, which is maybe one day a week. All the homeschool kids and homeschool moms get together. Certain moms will teach different classes for all the other kids. So it's kind of like one day a week you are going to school, but everyone's homeschooled, So there's going to be a certain culture, certain behavior pattern that comes with that. Different discipline protocols and such. So you do co-op, but they also do sports programs. So I played basketball for the Homeschool Association. And about, at this point I'm still just kind of like, well, I like playing, but it's no big deal. And I was talking with you about this earlier today, actually. There was a guy who I played with my 8th grade year. He was a senior. But, coming from that environment at the Christian school where, just constantly getting picked on. This guy did the opposite. He included me in everything, even though I was a lowly 8th grader. He made me feel welcome. He made me feel important, I guess, as valued, yeah. So I looked up to this guy quite a bit. He had the summer before that season, been stung by a scorpion on a mission trip in Mexico. He got very sick because of it, and he stayed sick for most of the season. We were at a holiday tournament, and during that tournament, he passed out, went into shock, and had to go to the hospital. As a 14-year-old kid, seeing someone you look up to and appreciate and consider a friend being collapsed and then being rolled out to the parking lot on a stretcher while he convulses and has a seizure.
That leaves a memory.
It leaves a memory. Something about that night made me realize I want to be like this guy. Somewhere along the way, that got translated into I want to be a great basketball player.
Well, because you looked up and you thought, among other things, you thought he was a great basketball player.
Right.
Regardless of whatever.
Somewhere along the way after that, I decided, much to my folly and most young men's follies, that I wanted to be an NBA basketball player.
It's nice to have dreams.
Yeah. And I do believe in the importance of dreams.
Yeah.
But
even,
I believe
even out of reach ones.
Right. But I believe there still needs to be some sense of reality along the way.
It's important
even if it's just small. Even if it's just small enough that you have your toe dipped in reality.
It's important to, even if it is out of, even if you know it is out of reach, it can still be a motivating factor.
That's right.
In the sense of, let's say a person's a bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they idolize Schwarzenegger or something.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have the physique, but he's the one that gives them the drive.
Mm-hmm.
Or, the thought of Schwarzenegger, or whatever, is the one who, he's a spirit animal.
Yeah. Right. So I spent all of high school just trying to get as good at basketball as I possibly could. I figured I'm going to get a D1 scholarship, play in college, and then go to the NBA. Problem is, I'm a 6'2" white dude, and at the time, I weighed about 215 pounds, and it wasn't like muscle. It wasn't like jacked. It was like I was skinny fat. And you can go back and look at pictures of me from basically all of high school up until maybe my first 3 years of college. I was just a beanpole, but I had a lot of body fat at the same time. Now I'm just fat.
I'm not much better.
Yeah, I worked on that and worked on it. Really wanted it. Didn't really manifest. The best I could do was get the opportunity to play junior varsity basketball at the university I attended, which I thoroughly enjoyed and am grateful for the opportunity to have done. It was it was a good consolation prize because, for a while the thought is get to college, play in college, then the next step is the NBA, but get to college. Now, of course, you're thinking D1 scholarship to play basketball in college. I got my books paid for playing JV, which is awesum. It's not scholarship,
save a lot of money.
Yes. Saved me at least $1,000 every semester.
What the heck? This is one reason why I say community college. I didn't have to pay $1,000 every semester.
Yeah.
Maybe between tuition price and textbooks and various fees on top of it, $1,000, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But not just for textbooks per semester.
Yeah.
My tuition fees ended up getting raised a bunch too.
Uh-huh.
That sucked.
So yeah, I went to college and I played JV basketball. I attended University of the Cumberlands. It's a school here in Eastern Kentucky. Very small, about 12,000 students on campus. Not 12,000, 1,200 students on campus. And
there was like 17,000 at Pomona.
Yeah, while I was getting ready to graduate high school, I developed a love for chemistry. So I decided to be a chemistry major when I got to school.
Speaking of math,
and a physics minor. Carrie knows where this is going.
It's funny how. Oh, you had asked what verse it was. The man sets his heart.
Yeah, say it to the people listening.
It's Proverbs 16, verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
And out of I'll read a few versions, but they'll all say the same thing. The New International Version says, I don't know what year, but the New International Version says, in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. In the ESV, the heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. New King James, New King James, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps.
Yep.
New American Standard, the mind of man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. KJ, a man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps.
Yeah.
They all say the same thing.
Right. I would make the joke about us losing several viewers or listeners because you didn't use the King James Version.
That was
But we don't have any viewers to begin with.
That was KJ, King James.
But you used all the other versions.
First.
You have to exclusively use the KJV.
Oh, please. There's a list of like 20 it's more like 30 in here.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to read them all.
Right.
I shouldn't have even read as many as I did. I should pick the King James or the New King James and then say, here's the King James, and they're all going to say something pretty similar.
Uh-huh.
A little different, but it's pretty similar. Or at least the ones I'd read.
Uh-huh.
The ones I'd read. I only read the best translations.
Yeah. So, okay, started out as a chemistry major. Physics minor. Got up through my second year when I decided, you know what, I like physics a lot too. How about I do a double major in chemistry and physics with a math minor?
Yeah.
You know, you have to have a lot of math anyway as like prerequisites for a lot of the chemistry and physics courses. So, you know, picking up a minor was not going to be a big deal.
Well, I think it depends on the chemistry because a lot of the students I've talked to and TA'd for, they've not needed much math at all, even for chemistry.
It's different.
I guess it depends.
You have to have some.
I guess the pre-med ones, even when they go through OChem, they don't really need it. But if they're actually doing actual chemistry, they're not going to be in my TA class. And two, they're actually going to get all the math. A lot of the math, they'll get the diffie Qs. They'll get the. I'm sure they'll have matrix. Matrix algebra.
Yeah, math minor, physics major. The scheduling for the physics major was a little weird for me because of where I was switching over to it. On top of the fact that our physics department only has 2 professors. Even to this day, there's only 2. Very small school, like I said. So only 2 physics professors. They can't teach that many courses in 1 year. So you kind of had to plan out when you're going to take some of these courses.
They only teach 4 between the 2 of them, really.
Yeah. And so I had to double up on some stuff. Long story short, I got through my first semester of doing that and decided this is not going to work. So I decided, okay, I'm going to give myself the 5th year to finish college so that I can get all these classes in. And I also said, hey, I'm going to have a little bit of extra time during this 5th year. Might as well add a math major.
Of course, what can go wrong, right?
Yeah. So I triple majored in chemistry, math, and physics. And I got all 3 degrees. Wasn't a big deal.
NBT, yeah.
Yeah.
As you do.
Uh-huh.
And not go nuts or anything.
Yeah.
How long were your commutes?
I lived on campus.
Oh, man, lucky.
Lived in a dorm.
I would spend the better almost 2 hours every day going, and every day driving to the east side of the LA area.
Right.
In the LA County. And it was almost every day.
Yeah.
It absolutely sucked.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I didn't have to worry about that. I actually really enjoyed living on campus. I was also yes, I was a resident assistant. And even before I graduated, I got promoted to student life assistant, which is just like, it's not a residence hall director, but it's not an RA. It's kind of in between. It's like an assistant manager, basically, is what I was. I really enjoyed it. I made a lot of connections, a lot of friends. Really felt like a family, the people you worked with in that job. So, yeah, I would, that school was my life for a long time. But, yeah, I was going to say, with the 5 years, being there 5 years, I always tell people that I crammed 4 years of college into 5.
Oh,
right, so...
I crammed 4 into 3.
Yeah.
I went in for physics and I got a math minor while I was at it.
Mm-hmm.
But all I needed was one more real analysis, one complex analysis, one abstract algebra.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I might have needed one more. And I would have been able to skate by with the minimum, I think, for a second bachelor's in mathematics. But that would have tacked on another year. Not because it would have taken a year, but because the way the classes were scheduled, it would have worked out to, they only have the second semester real at, in the winter, there were quarters at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and they were changing to semesters from the quarter system. So it was just a great time to get out on my part.
It's kind of like right now, going back to school in the fall, we don't know what it's actually going to look like.
You're going back to school in the fall. I'm going to try and stay home as much as possible. Oh, man. Not having to deal with some of that. It's just going to be what I prefer. I thrive on that self-study thing.
You do. I don't. I like a professor. I like a classroom. I like being hand-fed the information. So
I like being told, go here.
Yeah.
It works better. For me, that works better. I had some whack classes. And I've told Andrew a bit about this, and I could go into detail about it later, but this isn't about me. So,
tell him real quick. Tell him about the one professor.
Which one professor?
The one that wrote his own textbook.
Textbooks.
Yeah.
So this man, he wrote a textbook with. He helped write the second edition, or the revised edition, the second edition, I think, of lecture notes on differential geometry with Chen and Chern, the Chen and Chern of differential geometry. This was a very smart man. He was also he was professor emeritus, and he knew he was professor emeritus. He did not like the department politics that he was asked to play to, and it's not like his co-workers he disliked so much as what he was asked to do. He's told you have to pass a certain number of students, and he's like, all right, fine, I'll pass a certain number of students, but I'm going to teach it my way with my textbook. So, first day of classical mechanics, textbooks, he says, oh, don't worry, you won't have to know what a tensor is. We'll blah, 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 blah. I misunderstood. Emphasis on greatly misunderstood. This as meaning we won't need tensors.
Mm-hmm.
No. Oh, we will need tensors. That day, we got into tensors. Some of you are asking, what is a tensor? This is the answer we got sometimes. A tensor, you know it when you see it. A tensor is if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and transforms like a duck. It's a duck. That is a tensor. Which is super not helpful.
Nope.
Really, at least the physics definition, I don't quite remember the math definition. I will say it's functionally the same. There's going to be some mathematicians out there going, but it's basically an object that undergoing a similarity transformation, you get itself. So in math, whatever, I'll not talk about it right now. But anyways, so this class, classical mechanics.
Here's how I would describe it, and you can tell me if this is wrong. But this is my working understanding of tensors. A vector, if anyone knows what a vector is,
it's a one form.
Is a one-rank tensor.
First rank, yeah.
A matrix is a second-rank tensor.
Yes.
If you took an object that had, so let's take a 3x3 matrix. If you took three 3x3 matrices, stacked them on top of each other in space. So let's pretend we take three pieces of paper.
Array. Very much like a programming array.
Yeah. If we take 3 pieces of paper, we're going to write a 3x3 grid on each of those pieces, and you're going to put numbers in each slot of each grid on each piece of paper. Stack all 3 pieces of paper on top of each other. That's a third-rank tensor.
Yeah. And that could be a third-rank tensor. Specifically, it has to transform there has to be homeomorphism between representations. It has to transform in a particular way. It has to maintain its maintain its form, basically. Mm-hmm. So the numbers might be different, but that's in one basis. And you transform between bases, you might have different numbers, but when you transform back to that first basis, mm-hmm. You will have the same matrix.
Right.
It has to transform in that particular way.
Yeah.
There's more details like contravariant and covariant and mixed rank, but that's frankly not. None of this is relevant.
It's not real at all.
So the first day he has...
You guys might learn something about math and physics if you keep watching this podcast.
They came
if you don't
here
know
for
anything already.
Maybe some philosophy and hopefully weightlifting. And instead they're getting math and physics. Let's talk about the measurement problem in quantum physics and how the multi-universe's interpretation is utter bunk. Because the question it looks to solve, it just shoves under the rug. So the first day he had he's like, you don't need to know about tensors. I think he meant to imply previously know about tensors, because we got hit with tensors that day. In the next few days, we got hit with differential geometry. So by the end of the second semester, second quarter, mind you, quarters are 12 weeks. So in 24 weeks, we covered basically 32 weeks of material. I got a crash course introduction to Christoffel symbols and nonlinear geometry and field equations and wedge products and Hodge stars, and that's where I learned I like physics. That's where I learned I want to do the math stuff.
Yeah,
and that's where everyone else went. You need your head checked. Everyone else, I had people did say that.
Right. Okay. So anyway,
sorry for that.
No, that's okay. I asked you to tell them about it.
It won't even be tangential.
It's not. But...
It's not even a fiber bubble to connect. The manifolds in which it is tangent.
Okay. Right. So, I was talking about...
You got your degrees.
Yeah, I got my degrees. So I graduated, and I actually had decided that I wanted to pursue graduate school for physics. I applied to the University of Miami and got in. If you're asking why Miami, because I thought I wanted to live on the beach and in a big city where I could party every night.
Oh my gosh.
Well, understand that my definition of partying
is...
I say partying, basically just being able to go out every night and do something. Something fun every night. That did not happen because I didn't know anybody there. And I wish I had realized that beforehand.
Well, that would have been a great opportunity for you to go out and just make friends.
It would have. And I'll say this. I think part of the reason I had a hard time was because all my fellow graduate students there were foreign. At least the ones in my age group. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I just wasn't as comfortable trying to be friends with different people.
When was this Miami thing?
It was... I graduated university in 2016, May 2016, and I started graduate school at Miami August 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was there...
I was just about getting almost broken up with, and then I still had roughly two more years before I'd be here in Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
I here in Kentucky.
Right. Yeah, so I only stayed there for a year, left, and...
Jackson didn't do well for you.
I came back home. I lived with my parents for a little while.
Don't feel bad, technically. I live in my parents' basement, technically. I do?
Yeah. Except it's a 4,000 square foot basement.
Stop that. What did I... Remember I was telling you about my other friend that went and blabbed about stuff? Let me do the blabbing.
Okay. All right.
It's not 4,000.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how square footage works in a house. I've never been able to figure that out.
Usually you have a foot on one side and a foot on the other side, and it's a square that you measure the area of.
Genius. Absolute genius. I've never thought of that before. Okay. I've, like I said, moved back, lived with my parents. At this point, my passion for fitness, for weight training, had started to develop. I'll rewind a little bit because
it's important.
Yeah, stuff will make more sense if I go back and say some more details about while I was in university. I lifted weights in college for the first several years. Most everybody does. They get into it. They bro lift with their friends and everything, and that's pretty much what I did.
Oh yeah.
I decided
arms all day, every day, bro.
Yeah. I saw Ronnie Coleman in his prime and was like, I want to be like Ronnie Coleman. I'm going to look like the Incredible Hulk.
Did you actually see him, or did you...
Oh, no, just on YouTube.
Oh, okay, okay.
Just videos.
He is quite good.
Yeah.
In my eyes.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he is. You're right. He looks like the Hulk. Who doesn't... Well, who in their right, sane mind doesn't want to look like the Hulk?
Right.
Everyone wants to look like the Hulk. Absolutely unqualified everyone.
Well, I think most girls don't want to look like the Incredible Hulk.
No, they do. I can think of one on...
I mean, I wouldn't want to date a girl that looks like the Incredible Hulk.
Why not?
Do you?
Everyone does.
I don't agree.
I can actually think of one. I can think of one girl who might be willing to look like the Incredible Hulk if the other benefits came with it as well.
Uh-huh.
But she was also a super petite, small, like a super small frame woman.
Uh-huh.
She got married recently, and I'm very happy for her. But
I would take the She-Hulk as a dating partner.
Sure.
But not the actual Hulk.
Anyways. Well,
okay.
One, you're not gay.
Okay. If the Incredible Hulk had breasts and... I don't know. I actually don't know what's going on inside his shorts.
How about we move on?
Like, if you think about it, what is happening to his private parts when he transforms into the Hulk?
How about we move on? I don't know how edifying this will be. I think there's some of the comics that address it anyways.
What?
Yeah. I think some of them do.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I could not tell you which ones. I know he has a kid or a few kids or Planet Hulk.
Planet Hulk.
I'm not joking. I was never big into comics.
I wasn't really either.
I like some of the characters, but I think a lot of it isn't utilized as effective as it could be. Mm-hmm. For example, I think Superman could be used as a depiction of basically Superman's a demigod. I mean, what can Superman not do? Kryptonite, and that's about it. So, assuming Kryptonite's not involved... Oh, and magic. Assuming Kryptonite and magic aren't involved, there's little reason to think Superman won't come out on top.
Right.
So, if you have every problem solved with a fist fight, that's not going to look good. Mm. I mean, it's like, well, he's going to win.
Yeah.
Or he'll laser eye beam them. Or he'll frost breath them. Mm-hmm. It's not interesting. The best questions that could be investigated with Superman are moral judgment dilemmas. If he's supposed to be this lawful good paladin type character, well, you need to put him in situations where that gets conflicted. Mm-hmm. It might be that the answer is no. There's, if you are not, sometimes, anyways, not the point.
That's okay.
Ronnie Coleman. Yeah. Wait.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone at some point sees the bodybuilders on TV or on YouTube, wherever, and is like, I want to look like that. I'm gonna start lifting weights. What they don't realize is that
that's lifelong dedication.
Not just as simple as lifting weights.
It's also getting the right gear in your butt.
It's getting the right It's injecting the right drugs. It's injecting the right steroids.
Unfortunately.
It's eating. It's training the right way, not just arbitrarily lifting weights, but
a particular. In the last episode, something or other, blah blah blah, machines. You will use a lot of machines because you want to be symmetric. You want to look. Yeah. You want to be appealing. It might be that your biceps are great, but one bicep might be a little bigger than the other, and you don't want that.
Right.
You don't. Your purpose isn't to what your goal is. Your purpose isn't to lift the most weight. That's a part of it. I mean, how do you think they get so big? Hypertrophy. They are certainly strong. Absolutely, there is no doubt about it. However, their goal isn't strong first. Their first goal is frankly look aesthetic. There's a certain physique they're going for. They don't necessarily care so much as if they're benching 450 or whatever, 495, and their right arm is handles it better or worse than their left arm. They don't necessarily care as long as they're still functional and in serving their goal of that aesthetic.
I think we'll do a podcast episode at some point on the importance or the usefulness of machines at varying stages and varying goals.
They're absolutely useful. They're just not. They shouldn't be your primary workout.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
Ronnie Coleman.
Everyone
wants to be the Hulk.
Everyone wants big muscles and wants to be jacked. If you're a guy, if you're a girl, you just want to look.
Well.
You want curvy, maybe, but
it's different. It's different.
Yeah. Every young guy, we'll say that every young man wants bigger muscles. To a certain point. So I started weightlifting a lot and everything. Wasn't super consistent. My diet wasn't good, so I didn't make a lot of progress. Made a little, but not a lot. It certainly didn't turn into the Incredible Hulk. I still don't look like the Incredible Hulk.
Well, but most people will never look like the Incredible Hulk.
I don't think it's possible.
Well, I mean, if we're talking actually look like the Incredible Hulk, no, he's 12 feet tall and he's got hands that are 18 inches from one side of the palm to the other. I mean, he's giant, humongous. So.
Yeah. If you think of Eddie Hall, one of my favorite strongmen,
I mean, I think
he has a pretty boxy physique. Yeah, he almost looks like the Incredible Hulk.
In comparison, yeah.
All right, so...
But he's also an order of magnitude smaller. So.
Right. Yeah. At some point, I figured out a diet that worked for me that helped me lose a lot of weight.
Chicken, rice, and broccoli?
Almost. No rice. Chicken and broccoli.
Yeah.
It was like a no gluten, no sugar.
Atkins? Keto?
No, it was just its own thing.
No, okay.
It's called the 10-day detox. And I did that 10-day detox for the better part of a year.
You're not supposed to cram that like that.
Yeah.
That's not at all that was bad.
But I lost weight. I went from about 215 and looking skinny fat to looking at about 190 and looking lean. I did. I was very proud of myself. I also I said, you know what, I'm going to try a powerlifting program. I'm going to get stronger. And I did. I could not dunk a basketball for my entire life until my senior year of college. After losing weight and doing a powerlifting program, I was able to dunk a basketball.
For most of my life, I wasn't really able to do a pull-up. I was able to some in wrestling, but it was real hard. And wrestling wasn't necessarily about that anyways. It was about, if anything, it was about your core, and core strength and core endurance, because you're doing a lot of manipulation with your trunk. So my arms, my upper body has always been my weakest. It still is my weakest, but I know after I'd started doing weightlifting, I had been able to do. It's still really hard. He said his weight about 320. I weigh about 250, so it's not. Right now, it's probably about 255, 260.
Yeah,
because I've got clothes, shoes, heavy belt, phone is. Well, that's not actually in my pocket, but Well, people don't think about it.
You have a dense body.
Yeah.
Your lower and mid body are very dense.
I don't swim well. I don't. I almost sink sometimes. Yeah. There has been a time where I actually sank.
I'm not so cool. I'm not so dense. However, I have in the past had people accuse me of weighing 275 when I weighed more like 300. And I think it's part of it is how much of it is muscle.
Yeah.
And part of it is I think I probably have pretty dense bones.
Yeah.
But that's really about it. But yeah, I'm not as bottom heavy as Carrie is.
I'm pretty bottom heavy.
Yeah.
I am pretty bottom heavy.
Right.
Serves me well.
Huh?
It served me well.
Serves you well.
You know, it's not... When you're moving, like furniture, it's... You would think the upper body strength would be more helpful. And it would be helpful... It's always helpful to have more upper body strength. More than I currently have, upper body strength. But it's not like your arm's floating in the air.
Yep. Right. So yeah, that was kind of my first encounter with strength training, was that powerlifting program. I actually did Texas Method. And Carrie's laughing because I harp on the importance of
proper
programming based on your fitness, on your advancement. So, you know, you can class everybody into
novice,
intermediate, or advanced lifter. A novice lifter, by definition, is someone who can make progress on a day-to-day basis in the gym. Intermediate lifter would be someone who can make progress week to week. And advanced lifter is someone who can't make progress week to week. They may have to do every 2 weeks, 3, up to a month. Some people, when they get super advanced, are going to have to wait 12 weeks. They're going to have to do a whole 12, 16-week program to see an increase in their strength.
And it's not like they might also have to add variation on the exercise as well.
Right.
In addition, or they'll have to. There's far more. There ends up being involved far more complexity than if they were just novice. Novice is literally show up to the gym, do your whatever, and then the next time do your whatever but more. And intermediate, it's kind of the same idea, but you end up with more variation because your body gets acclimated, it gets accustomed, it needs to. Because it's great at adapting. You know, it's all about minimizing its work, its effort. So
right. Yeah. So I just added another podcast idea to the list. We'll talk in depth about novice, intermediate, and advanced. What it looks like, how you program for it. But anyway, I was most definitely a novice when I did the Texas Method. But Texas Method is an intermediate program. So it shows you how much I knew back then. It also shows you how easy it is to make progress when you're a novice, even if your program is not designed for that.
Yeah.
It's called the novice effect. You can make progress doing almost anything. If you've never lifted weights in your life, riding a bike will make your bench press go up.
Yeah. Potentially.
Yep.
Very, very potentially.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, I did that, and I was on top of the world. I had lost weight. I'd gotten stronger. I could dunk a basketball. I was about to graduate with 3 degrees. Just life was awesome.
Going to Florida.
Yeah. I also met who's now my fiance, my girlfriend at the time.
Or who became your girlfriend.
Yeah, became my girlfriend. And, you know, we had been friends. It was nice because we had been friends for a while. And that just kind of blossomed into something more than friendship. I would recommend, if you're listening to this and you do not have a girlfriend right now, but are looking for one, try to make friends and actually be friends, not with ulterior motives, but just find a best friend who's a female. And then let that blossom into something romantic if it's meant to.
Don't be afraid to let it not.
Yeah.
It's entirely... It would be healthy to just let things happen. If you can be best friends, and you might just be best friends.
Mm-hmm.
You can be best friends and maybe become, a relationship out of it.
But also don't let a girl put you in the friend zone.
I think
no one's happy at that point.
She's happy.
Is she? Because you're not.
She's not.
You're not going to be able to put 100% into the friendship.
Well, that's ulterior motives, isn't it? If you're there just to be friends.
If you're already friends, honestly, you don't even have to have already been friends. It can work either way. If you just know a girl and you start hanging out with her and you think it's starting to become romantic, but then she pulls out the friend zone card, have a talk with her maybe, but don't force yourself to stay in a friendship that's just going to make you sad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But also, if you are friends with this person and you get to the point where you're starting to have romantic feelings towards her, you need to make a decision.
Either you friend zone her, in a sense,
mm-hmm.
or you should either you friend zone her, you make no decision, which is effectively the same as if you do nothing, that's still a choice.
Mm-hmm.
As the great philosophers Lifeson, Pert, and Getty and Lee, it's Rush. If you don't make a choice, you still have made a choice.
Yeah.
So and life will make a choice for you some way, somehow.
Right.
So either go for it, don't go for it, or do nothing, and something will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it very well might be something you don't like.
Yeah.
It very, I don't know. Girlfriends are hard.
They are.
Like that whole matter is complicated because it can be complicated because it's like if you go in it looking for a girlfriend, why are you looking for a girlfriend?
Right.
In the sense of, sure, girls are pretty, they smell nice, they look good, they're attractive, they can be very nice, and
most of them.
They offer. Notice I didn't respond. They offer. They offer a different perspective on the world. They offer different insights. They come at things from a very different perspective.
Yeah.
And that's enlightening on its own.
That's
worthwhile.
Very much so.
But, if you're going at it because you're a horn dog, stop it. Seriously, stop it. Don't do that.
Uh-huh.
Get yourself in order. If you're, if, they'll say, oh, blah, 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 objectification of women. Well, in a sense, that is objectification of women, and it's not good because you're not looking at them for, we all bear the image of God.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to objectify, you might as well just look at pornography. You shouldn't. You should neither. You should do neither.
Right.
But
yeah.
And it goes for women too. They shouldn't be looking at men as things to be caught or whatever, because they do it as much, probably or more, than men do to them.
Yeah.
Men look at women as as sex objects. Women look at men as success objects.
Mm.
One's a walking bed.
Mm-hmm.
There's a walking wallet. Neither is okay.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. So if you're not able to go into a relationship or look for one for the right reasons, you probably shouldn't do it.
Right.
Obviously our bend is they should be Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But the principles hold true. You should, even for non-Christian, it's rather many of them hold true for Christians.
Mm-hmm.
That are told about secular. Just like was said in the first episode, just because you're Christian doesn't mean you have a new nature. You are still going to sin a ton, and it's going to be bad because we're still imperfect.
Yeah,
and it works both ways too.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. So okay, so let's go back to after I left Miami, was living back at home, I had decided that I wanted to try to get a job working at a gym because of my newfound passion for fitness, and I was starting to specifically develop a passion for strength training, for getting strong.
What do you mean? CrossFit wasn't your thing? Not this time.
Yeah.
Not this time.
So, I got a job at a gym, and I worked there for maybe 3 weeks before the owner sold the place and new management came in. That new management was awful. Think about Ebenezer Scrooge. It's basically who the new owner was. So I ducked out of there pretty quick. It's not an environment I want to work in. I was blessed to not have to work in an environment like that through college. Again, as an RA, just the work environment, your superiors and your coworkers, just very cordial, very friendly, very much a brotherhood. Everyone was always looking out for your best interest. So maybe I was a little spoiled by that. But I'm kind of to the point where I don't think I ever need to work for
Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. I quit that job and I moved in with my girlfriend, now my fiance.
His parents were so pleased.
Well, they were at least not vocally, they were not displeased. But, I'm sure it was a little edgy
not
for them.
First choice.
Yeah, not the first choice. Looked around for jobs for about half a year, did some substitute teaching, and then I got a scholarship to UT Knoxville to be a graduate student in physics there. So I started that in August 2018. And same time as Carrie, like we said earlier.
That's where we met?
That's where we met.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. So I did, been there for a couple years now. Just finished our second year. And getting ready to go into our third.
And all the joys that'll bring.
All the joys it'll bring.
Now we both need to find...
that pretty much brings us up to date. That's where we're at now. With quarantine and everything going on, I was kind of going crazy. And I basically decided... I think this whole situation, not even just quarantine, but everything going on with the racial rioting and protests...
contemporarily at the moment.
Everything contemporarily going wrong with the world.
Currently, Seattle's got the Capitol Hill autonomous zone that's been in for a week and a half or something like that. There's the George Floyd riots that have been going on for a couple weeks-ish now. Mm-hmm. What else is going on?
That's about it right now, but they're big. That's enough.
They're big.
Yeah.
They are big.
Of course, there's implications and consequences of all of it that we're not necessarily mentioning by name, but it's pretty self-evident if you're listening to this currently.
There's going to be another tour of the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
I mean, there's been something go wrong every month this year. January almost had World War III because we bombed Iran.
I am unironically looking forward to July. I am unironically looking forward.
I can't wait to see what's next. What's new?
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be great.
Is it gonna be aliens?
No, they already confirmed aliens. Remember
when?
That was April, or maybe it was May, or maybe it was March. The Pentagon basically said, "Yeah, there's UFOs. We don't know, guys."
Yeah.
It's not the Russians. It's not the Chinese. It's not the take your pick. It's not us, which might be good cover, but it's pretty intense when you look at it. It's like, oh yeah, this is centered at 9 Gs, so from a dead still stop. It's pretty intense.
Like I said, January World War III, February Kobe Bryant died, which made me very sad. I'm a huge Lakers fan.
Yeah, there was something else happened in February. Oh yeah, the current disease hotness decided it wanted to leave China.
Yeah, and then in March it got really bad.
Yeah.
March, April. What happened in April? Was April Murder Hornets or was that May?
I think that was April.
Okay.
Because May was.
What was May?
I think the end of May was George Floyd.
Was it?
Maybe. I don't remember. Jimmy, look that
anyway. Yeah, you can find that something pretty major, some pretty disastrous happens every month this year so far.
For the most part. Yeah. Well, the murder hornets weren't disastrous.
Everyone thought they were going to be.
I only heard about it one time, and I only heard of it. The next time I heard about it was basically somebody going, "Yeah, so how about the murder hornets?" Mm-hmm. And it was a joke because nothing happened.
Maybe Antifa in Seattle is just murder hornets in disguise, because the murder hornets originated in Washington.
Maybe. Well, no, because their ideas don't originate.
Anyway, I just say all that to say that everything that's gone on this year, I've suffered with a pretty serious bout of depression. For a lot of my life, I've struggled with OCD. I've never been clinically diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And I've just had a really hard time with that the past few months because of everything going on, not just in the world, but with work, with school.
In my entirely
in life.
Naive, uninformed opinion, it's probably because you feel like you don't have a strong sense of control in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That tends to be the case. That tends to be the case with... There's OCD that shows up early in life, and there's OCD that sets on later.
Right.
That tends to be more due to the circumstances, the situation, the way one perceives themselves in it.
Yeah.
And you didn't have it. We've talked about it before.
Yeah.
He and I, that is. And he didn't have it when he was young, in particular. And
it started showing up when I was about 12, so...
Yeah, but it's not...
But not young.
No.
Not like a baby or a toddler.
Not like... in a sense, it's kind of
like... Or a 6-year-old.
In a sense, it's kind of like diabetes.
Yeah.
In some regards. Now, my degree is not at all in any field related to, psychology or psychiatry or psychotropy or whatever, so...
Yeah. Okay, so what I was trying to get at was just that all that bad stuff happening, I think it's just kind of made me realize that life is too short.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to be a strength coach, possibly a gym owner, for a long time now. It's a passion that just keeps growing and growing. And I kind of just said I'm going for it. That's why I've built the garage gym out here. I'm training 2 or 3 people out of it already. I'm hoping to get more. I'm not charging any money yet. The idea is if I get enough people, that word of mouth will spread, and then I can start charging people because they'll be coming to me rather than me walking up to them and being like, "Hey, will you let me coach you? It's free." And it's not to say that I think I'm a bad coach and that I don't deserve to get paid, but I just don't have the reputation yet. So.
And there's always more, another way that one can improve oneself, whether that's refine their own technique, refine the eye that they have, the technique of others. I mean, he handed me the lightning list of questions. Okay, so.
Do these, not the first 2, but those 3.
I figured.
Yeah.
So.
And you don't have to be
condescending 14-year-old atheist about it.
No.
Anyways, so now would be a good time to move on and ask some of the similar questions that he had asked me. So can you give us your spiritual testimony? How did you come to Christ, or when did you kind of?
Well, like I said, I grew up in church my whole life. Every time the doors were open, kind of thing.
I know of plenty of pastors' kids that were terrible. My grandfather was a nightmare.
Yeah, it's interesting how that can go. I remember when I was 7 years old, it was the weekend after Bible school. Because we had Bible school about once a year. Something happened that it kind of clicked, and I understood at least a little bit what was happening. So I remember asking Jesus to save me that night. And I told my parents, the next day or something. I was like, "Oh, by the way, I got saved." They were just kind of like, "What?" Fast forward to when I was 12 years old, I actually started doubting that. And so I made another profession of faith. This was also the first time that my OCD and anxiety issues started acting up. That year, at least for a couple months, I can remember going through a cycle of, two or three different questions entering my mind. I was either not saved, not going to enjoy heaven, or had been left behind in the rapture.
And you, if I sound like the condescending, not atheist, but the Bible does talk about all these things. That's not the case. That wouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. Thessalonians. They talked about. Paul talks to them about. Hey, no, it hasn't happened yet. There's all these things that. There's a number of these other things that would show up and would happen before the case. You would know. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's not going to be. Oh no, I missed it. We were talking the other day about. I was complaining the other day about Christian fiction, and how sometimes it feels, like just as
it's like a preschooler story.
It's like a preschooler story, in its depth.
There's no actual conflict a lot of times.
I don't know about that.
If there is, it's resolved immediately with no repercussions.
Or it's basically childish. It's just as great a plot and story in many times as Twilight, the series.
I've never seen Twilight. So.
I read it, and I saw one of them or something.
Okay.
I don't recommend it. Because it's basically I don't know what other word to use other than like porn. But it's not it's not porn in the sense of like ass and titties. No. Actually I edit that part out. It's not porn in the sense of like TNA or anything like that. It's porn in the sense of like that guilty satisfaction that's not edifying, not beneficial. Mm-hmm. And it could be that there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't mean to imply that there always is something wrong with that. But sometimes I think Christians let it affect them too much. Mm-hmm. It's one thing if you read, some fiction or whatever it is, and you just like, oh, that was neat. Mm-hmm. And you kind of move on.
Yeah.
It's another thing if it's like, oh, that was neat. I can't wait for that exact thing to happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
It very well might exactly happen like that. It very well might not happen exactly like that.
Right.
Depending on whatever your content is. And I think it's a bigger problem actually sometimes than people think, because it taints what people expect. Mm-hmm. I think in some sense Christians think their future partner, if there is one for them. And I don't mean in the sense of like, oh, I don't know, is God faithful? God's faithful. If God has planned for you a spouse, that they think the spouse will be perfect. And the marriage will be perfect, and everything will be perfect.
Nope.
Anything but.
That's not
anything but. Absolutely anything but. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And I think people don't always realize that.
Yeah.
About everything.
Mm-hmm. So like I said, I was having those struggles and those doubts. I actually did make another profession of faith towards the beginning when all that happened. Kind of from that point on and off through the years, high school was really bad for me as far as the OCD and depression goes. Probably one of the worst times in my life. Just having to struggle through that like I did. I hadn't really developed the coping mechanisms yet to help me deal with that. Wasn't seeing a good counselor at that point, which I am now, and I'll just go and go on a rabbit trail right here. If you guys aren't seeing a counselor or a therapist at least once or twice a year...
If you need one.
Even if you don't. Just go see one. Talk to them. Let them pick apart your brain just once or twice a year.
Or get a good friend that you can do that with.
The counselor or therapist is trained to help you understand why you're thinking the way you are and how to organize those thoughts in the first place.
I don't trust a lot of the secular world in some of these matters.
There are a lot of good Christian counselors.
And they could be worth talking to.
The one I'm seeing right now is a Christian. So.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's valuable information, the secular world is absolutely going to lie to you. They will tell you things like homosexuality is acceptable. It's not. It is against God's word. That is why God made them man and woman. Oh, blah blah blah. It's not Adam and Steve. It's Adam and Eve. Well, in a sense, yeah, it is. It is that case. If that was the plan, that would have been made that way.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure a number of you are going, whatever.
We just lost all our viewers.
Deal with it.
All 8 of them.
Deal with it. I don't know what to say. I mean, everyone's honestly, that's a question.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say that if you go to see your dentist, everyone's supposed to do this and they don't. But I would like it if the standard was at least there. If you're supposed to go see your dentist twice a year for a checkup, why don't you go get your mental health checked twice a year?
Perhaps, but you have to be able to trust that the person has a quote unquote good eye.
Right.
It's
just like you wouldn't go visit a notoriously bad dentist.
You wouldn't visit a notoriously bad dentist.
Yeah.
You shouldn't visit a counselor that's going to tell you lies.
Right.
And if you're Christian, so what's the difference between seeing, a Christian counselor and not seeing a Christian dentist? Well, a dentist only handles your mundane physical teeth.
Yeah.
A counselor has influence and access to your spiritual thought.
Yep.
That should only be handled biblically.
That's right.
If you're non-Christian, if you're secular, well, what do you care?
I will also say this: a good counselor, even if they are secular, is going to be trained to help you figure things out, even if they don't personally hold the same beliefs as you.
A properly professional
counselor is going to do that.
It could be hoped would do that. More and more we are seeing that there are less and less of that sort of type in the world. Mm-hmm. Remember what I was telling you? Mastodon, the network, the organization was breaking their own creed. Yeah. I was telling you there's all sorts of journalists nowadays. A lot of them, I've met some, or I've encountered some rather, that abhor the nature of what journalism is nowadays. Mm-hmm. They wish it was the days of at least the idealized days of the past, where at least it was more truthful or perceived as truthful. Right. And I'm not going to say they lied just as much. I don't think they did. But I do think they told the truth more, and I think whatever spin it did have was less. But I don't. Now, more and more nowadays, you're finding fewer and fewer organizations that will just tell a relatively unbiased truth. Mm-hmm. I mean, Breitbart is absolutely biased. CNN is absolutely biased. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that if you for whatever reason you go to a secular counselor, you need to make sure that they will be as unbiased as possible. Yes. And some of them will not cooperate. Mm-hmm. You need to not go see them. Right. You should just go see a Christian counselor.
I have seen one of those counselors before, by the way.
I'm sure you have.
Who was also a Christian.
What? Super biased?
Was super biased.
And that you need to not.
It works both ways.
It absolutely does. Oh, it absolutely does.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've struggled with that on and off for a long time now. But over the years, I've learned better how to manage it. I've also learned a lot about myself and what I believe. That usually happens when you leave your parents and go to college. You don't necessarily...
Or what you don't believe.
Huh?
Or what you don't believe.
What you don't believe. You don't always maintain everything that your parents taught you.
For better or for worse.
You get to pick and choose what you think is correct.
I don't like the way you phrase it like that.
Well, how would you phrase it?
I don't know.
I think you know what I mean.
I know what you mean,
yeah.
But I'm going to nitpick anyway.
You get to sit down and rationally decide for yourself what is truth. Yeah. That sound better?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what you will take as truth. Yeah. It might be, like I said, some preachers, pastors' kids, what's mentioned was that, no, they fall away. Mm-hmm. It might be that you get to college, and you get to university, and you go, you know what, I can't keep living like this. You bounce off rock bottom, and, you repent. Mm-hmm. It might be neither, it might be both. Right.
I think I struggled with the idea of not being saved on and off all that time as well. Eventually, I just kind of decided that I'm probably going to struggle with this for the rest of my life. I can either keep on making professions of faith and saying, okay, I got saved this day. No, never mind, it's this day. What I've kind of decided is that what I can do instead is just personally look at myself and say, okay, right now, at this exact moment in time, do I want to be saved? Do I want do I want his sacrifice on the cross to apply to my life? If yes, then that's kind of it. About it. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. Like, unless I just decide I don't want to be a Christian right now, that's it. I mean, and even, I honestly might even argue that if there is a point where you do say, no, I don't want this, you might still be saved, but that's a topic for another day.
It depends on the seriousness.
Yeah.
You mean, I could say it right now. No, I don't want to be saved. No, I don't think Christ died on the cross for our sins. I don't think he was God incarnate. I don't believe it.
Right.
I don't believe what I just said. So it's not...
Like I said, this is a topic for another day.
Topic for right now.
It's going on the list.
One last thing on my part, though, is some of that, am I saved? Am I not saved? Some of that, you just need to let go. Absolutely. Just stop it.
But dude, I'm telling you,
some of it is also...
When you actually have OCD, you can't let it go. Your brain won't physically let it go.
I understand.
Now, I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was about that thought process that fixed my brain, but I've not doubted my salvation since that. It's been probably 5 years at least.
I was just going to say something.
And I thank God for that, because it's an awful thing when you have to struggle with that on a regular basis.
Yeah, and we don't. That sort of thing, we don't have to.
Right. And you kind of get to the point where it's like, sometimes you almost convince yourself you're not saved. And it's like, okay, that means I need to go get saved and tell everybody.
Well, you don't necessarily have to tell everybody.
Well,
like every time,
But then there's some shame that comes with that, and you kind of don't want to do it, because what if you are saved? Then you're doing something that you don't really need to do.
Which is why I also said you don't necessarily have to go by.
I
was just going to say...
And then you start thinking, oh, so I know I need to be saved, but I'm not going to do it. Am I defying God? Am I just going to let myself go to hell?
It's one of
these are the thought processes that go through your head.
It's just some of those non-enlightening questions. It's like, can God make a stone even he can't live? The fundamental question being, is God omnipotent?
Right.
The point being, it's not a helpful question.
Exactly.
If you trust the Bible, yes, he's omnipotent, and it doesn't matter because it's not a helpful. What value is it? What does it matter? Yeah. All I was going to say in particular was just that, sometimes for other people it might be useful in particular to say this, is that if you're doubting your salvation, maybe there's some chronic sin in your life. The one that always gets harped on
that can happen
is pornography, and that it absolutely eats and worries at kind of at your soul. And the best thing, I didn't say it was easy. The best thing would be to cut it out. Absolutely, don't have that. About 2/3 of Christian men struggle with pornography.
Right.
And that's because it hijacks this. We had the first episode, we mentioned, how neurochemistry, I mentioned heroin in particular, hijacks the supranormal stimulation. Pornography is exactly that. It does terrible things to your system.
Yeah.
And to your mental state. And not just the objectification of women at times, and it does, but just the way you perceive the world. There's a reason erectile dysfunction is a common symptom of pornography addiction, because you're so used to this incredibly potent drug that when the natural form comes around, it's not sufficient. That's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Not to mention, that's the point. So the point being that maybe there's some chronic sin in your life. It doesn't have to be porn. That's the cheap one. I mean, that's the low-hanging fruit. Maybe it's some, gluttonous attitude in your life. Maybe it's some...
It could just be an attitude of I'm not going to give God control of my life.
Yeah.
It could just be that general attitude.
Absolutely. And that is terrible. That should not be the case.
Right.
I mean, if he is so good, there should be no problem seeding everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't say it like that, you know, a question of whether or not he is or isn't. He is. The question is a matter of pride at that point.
Right.
Oh, I could do better. Oh, can you? You know, pride is, you know, sometimes it seems like the first problem is pride, and then the second problem is whatever sin follows from that. Because you think it's fine, or it's no problem, or I can handle it. And
which is exactly what happened with Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Pride told them they could eat the fruit.
That's what happened with Lucifer.
Mm-hmm. Pride told them they could eat the fruit. And then after that, the pride continued to tell them,
you can lie.
We can lie. We can hide from God.
We can hide from God. We can, you know, Adam said, I'll blame it on her. It was her fault.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't her fault. I mean, sure, and as far as her part in it, it was her fault.
Yeah.
She didn't shove it in his face. She didn't force feed him.
Right.
He took it willingly.
Mm-hmm.
That was his fault.
Yeah.
And he lied for that.
Exactly. I'm going to go down another rabbit trail, I guess. And I don't want this podcast to turn into, like, the televangelist hour or anything like that. But I will say that if you are not a Christian, but you're thinking about becoming one, go ahead and shoot us an email at the heroic.barbell.training@gmail.com. And we can help you figure some of that out if you want. I'll just go ahead and say that all you have to do to be saved is just we were always taught the ABCs. Admit to God that you're a sinner. So it's really just you realizing that you're not perfect. You need God. You're not whole without it.
You are. It's not only are you not perfect, you are guilty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've made mistakes. You've sinned.
We all have.
Right. So A is admitting to God that you're a sinner. B is believing that Jesus is God's son.
And that he died on the cross.
And that he died on the cross to save you from your sins.
Pay your debt.
Pay your debt. That's right. C is just confessing.
That you need him.
That you need him. Confess him as your Lord. Let him have control of your life.
Don't do it. It shouldn't be done for, material or dishonest gain.
Yeah.
But in a heartfelt sense, yeah, it needs to be confessed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. It's amazing how much better life is when you confess.
Yeah.
And I know I just said not for material gain, and I just said how much better life is, but truly, there's a lot less worry. There is. You don't have to worry about, why some of this or why some of that. You know the answer.
You and I know that life doesn't get easier when being a Christian.
It gets harder.
If anything, it gets harder. But it's a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
There's a sense of joy that comes with it.
Yeah.
Life's
peace. There's a fundamental layer of peace and contentment.
Life's not about happiness.
No.
It's about
serving the Lord.
It's about serving the Lord, but maybe on a more from humans' point of view, it's about value, about bringing value to your life. That's something else we'll talk about in another podcast.
I'm not sure I agree with the way you're phrasing that, so we should talk about that.
Sure.
I mean, it might be. It
Fulfillment.
might just be. It. Well, I don't.
Serving the Lord is not fulfilling?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. But, it's important to clarify that serving the Lord is fulfilled. Not, you are Christian to be fulfilled.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
It's an important distinction.
All right, okay, so, yeah, to finish my spiritual testimony, is kind of what we're doing here. I've definitely changed the way I approach my faith over the years as I've gotten older. And I'm perhaps a little more loose with some things than I used to be.
Or perhaps should be.
Maybe.
I won't be mad about myself.
But I've also learned that a lot of times it's more about the stuff you do than the stuff you don't do when it comes to faith. So, for instance, you can be the perfect Christian and never drink, never smoke, never cuss,
outwardly perfect.
never outwardly perfect. But what are you doing to further the kingdom of God?
Not to say that these things do further the kingdom of God.
Right. But what are you actively doing? Are you telling anyone about Christ? Are you showing God's love to the world? Are you serving the people around you in the name of Christ?
And it's not, in a sense, it's not always. It's usually not.
Are you bringing glory to God with your actions?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's been a real emphasis for me the past several years.
Not to harp on like street preachers. That's that's I know there are people that approve and disapprove, and I think there's a place. But
street preachers are at least doing something.
They're doing something.
They're proclaiming the message.
Yes,
for sure. Hopefully, whether it's effective or not, that's whatever. But
regardless of whether or not it's effective on the receiver's end, it's secondary. The fact. Ideally, they're proclaiming it in love and in truth and in compassion, and that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's effective is secondary. It's certainly ballsy. Because
would not necessarily be my first choice for witnessing because, like you said, it is very ballsy.
I have seen street preachers outside of Anime Expo.
It's embarrassing.
It can be.
That's why.
And depending on where you go, it's not going to be effective at all.
Right. Yeah.
I've seen street preachers outside the Anime Expo, particularly in 2017. Excuse me. Or was it 16?
Why were they outside the Anime Expo?
Because there's a lot of unsaved people.
Sure, but
there's a lot of unsaved people. They need to hear it. And they weren't doing anything. The preachers themselves, I don't think they were doing anything particularly wrong. I don't think they were being, harsh about it. I think they were being compassionate. But
yeah,
I don't know that they were being effective, but I think they were still serving. Just because you sow the seed and doesn't mean you're the one to reap the crop.
Right.
And just because you sow the seed doesn't mean that seed won't die. But it might be that you sow the seed and it dies, and you have to plow the ground again. You have to continually plow the ground. It might be that that continuing service is what allows it to be suitable for someone else later, or maybe you will be the one that someone else later that sees it. It's not. It's a value, and it's not always, like I said, it's not always street preachers. It could be just you helping, helping support those who do go out and on mission trips, or helping your local church, or helping the local little old lady across the street.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean,
it can be.
It's saving the cat from out of the tree, or it's the if you see someone getting mugged. I'm not encouraging anyone to do this, but you see someone getting mugged in the street alley, maybe go save them. I don't know, but
it's certainly heroic.
It's heroic, and that brings us full circle to the reason for this podcast. Is I'm trying to make heroic people, trying to teach people how to be heroic in every sense of the word. And we're going to have a podcast where we talk about what it means to be a hero. It's just a certain way you live your life when you're a Christian. You got to think about the way Jesus lived his life. He's the greatest hero of all. Not just because he died and rose from the grave. That's obviously the most important.
And paid for crimes he did not
commit. But it's the way he lived his life while he was not doing that.
Compassionate.
Yes.
Just.
Merciful.
It's a very unfair world. If
he was a man of action.
He was. He wasn't some wandering, gentle. I mean, he was very gentle. And he wasn't just some random...
I think in today's society we paint him out to be more gentle than he actually was.
Don't forget, he didn't... It wasn't rash. He deliberately, conscientiously, carefully fashioned a whip.
Yeah.
And overturned the tables of his...
What you doing with that whip, Jesus? Says the disciples as they watch him braiding the leather.
He's like, just you watch.
Everyone
Jesus, dude. Don't forget. Overturning tables and potentially whipping people was something that Jesus was amenable to.
Exactly.
Context being it's his house, it's his temple. Desecration is not something he appreciates.
Right. But yeah, I mean, everyone likes to bring up that example of
because it's easy.
Turning over the tables and stuff.
It's super easy.
It's easy. It's the most out there. It's the most in your face. But there's a lot of other subtle things he did that if you really pay attention to what Scripture's telling us, it's like he wasn't just this like gentle, like petite,
like, fat,
fruity,
ineffectual, the long-haired hippie dude.
Right. He had beliefs, he had convictions, and he was out for blood in a
any interaction with the Pharisees
in a metaphorical sense.
Any interaction with the Pharisees was brutal. Utterly brutal. So there's talking
Jesus was a man. In every sense, a man.
Well, he was a God.
Yeah.
He was both. Anyways, so, like another example, another good one that I like is, so the Pharisees bring this adulteress in front of him, and she, say she is caught in the act. And I believe it's in the, which Gospels it's in? I think it's in,
maybe multiple ones, I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I don't know that it's in Luke. My Bible.
It's probably Matthew.
My church would not be pleased. Man. I need to study this more. Anyways, so the Pharisees bring this adulteress in front of Jesus and say she was caught in the act of adultery. No, it's no mention of where the dude that she's cheating with is. So it was not with pure intentions on the Pharisees' heart in the first place. So they bring the adulteress in front of Jesus and asks, Moses would have us stone her. What would you have us do, O teacher? Recognizing he is a teacher. He says, it says that he writes in the ground, writes in the dirt to each of them. The word in the Greek that's used implies that he writes at, to, towards, not like in direction, but in meaning. In his purpose was to point out, in writing, to each of the Pharisees something, and he writes stuff out. They repeat the question. He continues to write stuff out. He stands up and he says, "Let the as they see what's being written, I'm sure they're horrified." And he stands up and he says, "Let he that is without sin cast the first stone."
Yeah. And
they all slowly walk away. And finally,
maybe he was writing their sins down.
It's thought that perhaps he was writing their sins down. He is omnipotent. Sorry. And omnipotent and omniscient.
Omniscient means all-knowing, so...
Yeah, and omnipotent being all-powerful. Yeah. So he would totally know their sins. It very well might be that some of them committed the same sin. It's not specified necessarily. It's just that he was writing, like, as a, in a sense, as an attack, if you will, against them, pointing out potentially pointing out their flaws. And they all leave. And then he says to the adulteress, "Go and sin no more." He doesn't. He, if anyone, could have cast the first stone.
Oh yeah,
he did not.
Exactly,
he would not. He chose not to. That was not why he was there. He was there to bring compassion, in particular, because the law did not have compassion. The law was the standard, and he lived the law. He absolutely did.
Yes.
But he was not there to... He was there to fulfill it. He wasn't there to enact it.
Right.
Against others. He was there for compassionate reasons.
Yep.
How ballsy is that? You're surrounded by, this gang of Pharisees. Just street thugs. Throwing Pharisee gang signs. And he throws some signs back at them, and they all go, snap. And they all bail. Oh wait, that's not how it went.
Well, it'd be more analogous to if the Pope and whoever's like the head rabbi, I guess, of Judaism or whatever, and your pastor, his pastor friends, all the local like clergy just like came at you and were like,
"What are you gonna do about it?"
Yeah.
What do you say? It's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
Well, maybe some less than others. The Pope's like 78 or something like that.
Huh?
The Pope's like 75. 75.
Oh. I mean, he'd be in the front, dude. He's got the staff.
He
can beat you with it.
So, how about we move on? Spiritual testimony is absolutely important, but already we're longer than I was, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fun.
So what are some of your lifting goals? Some short and long-term goals.
Okay, so short term, I want a 600-pound deadlift. I will get a 600-pound deadlift before the year is over. I did 575 before quarantine, right before quarantine. It was on my way to 600.
And then the Backstreet Boys had their reunion.
The Backstreet Boys had their reunion, and I lost some gains.
All the gyms closed.
Yeah.
Everyone was excited.
Which is part of the reason I built a home gym.
You were itching to do that anyways. I've been kind of itching to do that.
That was certainly the camel that broke the straw's back, is what it was. Nice. Straw that broke the camel's back.
No, I like the first one.
Yeah. So, 600-pound deadlift before the end of this year. I would like to get my squat back up to over 500, because I did 515 before quarantine, which was a big PR for me. It was I'd done 500 and 515 in the same day, and it was my first time squatting 500. So that was nice. I'd like to get that back. I'm not necessarily pushing for, 550 or 600 right away. I'm going to try to focus more on deadlift and getting into strongman. Overhead press, if I could, this is a little bit of a lofty goal, but I think I'm going to shoot for 315 for a single as a strict press before the end of the year. Bench press, we'll say for bench press 405 by this time next year. So it gives me a little more time to get there. I don't focus on bench press very often because I like the overhead press, but especially if I'm going to get into strongman, I need to focus more on overhead press. So that's short term. Long term, I'll deadlift 800 pounds before I die. At least. That's kind of a life goal I set for myself a few years ago. Basically, when I started training heavy, I was like, you know what? I don't see any reason why I can't make it to an 800-pound deadlift before it's all said and done. That's the biggest one.
Everything else is just kind of either icing or towards that goal.
Yeah. I'll squat 700. I'm sure I'll squat 700. Overhead press, lifetime goal 400. 405. Bench press, like I said, I'm not really going to focus on bench press that much. If I can bench 500 before it's all said and done, I'm good with that. So, but we're both 27. We've got a long time, which is why I don't think these goals are outrageous.
I'm more concerned that perhaps some of them are, on the edge of what might be possible natural. That's for myself, that's my concern, because I don't have as great a grasp on what is and is not possible natural.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think about myself and my own body, and I'm kind of like,
I don't see why not.
Yeah. That's what it boils down to. I don't see why not.
Yeah. I don't know why I wouldn't be able to do some of that either. I think the overhead press, of all of them, I think that will be the one that I would not get if I was to not get one. Yeah. Overhead press is wild.
Yeah. Of course, the gym and the business are going to be lifetime things from this point on. Well, I don't give up easily, so
no.
I definitely will be doing everything in my power to make sure that 2 years from now, you guys aren't on YouTube looking for this podcast and see, they only made like 10 episodes and then the channel died.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
No, the stupid microphone means we're going to get more than 10 episodes.
You've contractually obligated me to at least 50.
Or so.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll find some way to BS 50 episodes. Well, 48 more.
This list keeps filling up, man.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so easy. 2 dudes BS about stuff they have no reason to be talking about. Why, yes, I have a doctorate in... Is there a doctor in the house?
Introducing the 2 dudes who know nothing about nothing podcast.
My grandfather used to tell me on occasion that, there's, what's the difference between an engineer and a salesman? A salesman knows nothing about everything, and an engineer knows everything about nothing. He worked with a lot of PhDs and doctorates in some really awesome programs that for a long while were confidential. But thankfully, entertainingly, are not.
Yeah.
There's some interesting stories about, unexpected effects about some of this. Your cats.
Yeah.
I spent the night. The cats were fighting outside my door like all night.
Non-lifting goals, I'm thinking, long term, I want to at least have part ownership in a gym. I want to be a strongman athlete, and I just want to help other people get stronger, and I want to build a community of people who are like-minded, trying to better each other, make each other better people.
I'm here to disrupt you.
What?
I'm here to disrupt all that.
Okay. All right. So, I don't know. Can you think of anything that I may have left out that would be an interesting detail about my life story?
Probably, but we're pretty long.
What's the time?
1:48:45.
Really? Why is this one longer than yours? Yours felt like it took forever.
It did feel like it took forever.
All right. Well, let's just do the lightning round questions real quick, and then.
All right. Pulling the list that you said I'm not supposed to mention. What's your favorite? You didn't have me do these. What's your spirit animal?
We're gonna both do them.
Okay. Oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't start with that one. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is blue. And the channel and the YouTube channel and the podcast.
The blue that is in the channel, like that blue, because there's a lot of shades of blue, dude.
Just blue, man. Any blue, really.
Not helpful.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's all blue.
I think my favorite color would be, if I had to pick a color, does it have to be a single color?
No, I didn't pick a single color. I picked a spectrum of colors.
Yeah, sure. Right. So there's, it would be fine, if we're going to be cheaty about it, that in Lord of the Rings, the 2001 or 2 or whatever it is, movies, where the troop finally gets to Rivendell.
Mm-hmm.
It's that beautiful forest seeing golds and greens and that forestry blue and all that. That, I think, is stupendous. And barring that, blood red.
Okay.
Okay. What is your favorite food? And do you mean dish or favorite type of food? I don't know what you were.
A dish.
Dish.
It's gotta be ice cream. I love ice cream so much.
That's so bad for you.
I know.
I think mine might be. What do you think it is?
Kimchi and liverwurst?
No. That's my personality. How
about, I'm thinking just a really good steak is your favorite.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. Just a nice, good steak. Not like ribeye, which is funny because that's what people think, but like a T-bone or a New York strip, it's got some nice fat to it, but it's also got some nice resistance to it. I don't like my food. I like my food with little resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow. What's your favorite lift?
My favorite lift is the deadlift.
I think mine might be the clean and press.
Okay.
I think it's just
the clean and press or the clean and jerk?
Press. The clean and press. The overhead press that hasn't been done in decades.
Yeah. It's not been a contested lift for
decades.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that might be my favorite. What's wrong with my power cleans earlier? Something feels off. Context. I was doing some power cleans earlier. Power cleans. And what I was actually doing was jerks. Just snatches, rather.
He was doing close grip snatches.
It's I don't know what's wrong with my clean. What's going on? Something feels off. Because I'm an idiot, and it's not a power clean. Dogs or cats?
Feel evil for saying this.
Yeah, I don't know
considering
why
I have 4 cats, but I'm going to go with dogs.
I won't pick between the two.
Okay.
I think they're very different creatures, and I think they fulfill very different roles in a person's life.
It's true. I love my cats.
If you asked what kind
I absolutely
of cat,
adore my cats. They're great animals. They're great pets.
I would certainly, as far as dogs go, Great Dane.
Uh-huh.
And then there's close runners up after that. But
I want a German Shepherd really bad.
Danes. Craziest thing you've ever done.
I almost got arrested once.
What did you do?
One summer right before it was time to go home from university. Had some friends who were like, hey, we're going to go sneak around campus tonight and get on top of this, like, the stadium, basically, for the basketball team. So we did. We went in, and we found our way to the top. We had a guy who was the lookout, and he said, yeah, so the security guard's coming inside. He's looking for you guys.
Jesus, it's Buzz.
And the worst part about it was that I was about to start a summer job for the school. And I was like, great, I'm going to go to jail and they're going to fire me from this job before I even start. I used to be such a goody two-shoes. And I was like, I have to go down. I have to explain to the officer what's going on and do the right thing. I mean, I'm glad I did that time, but if I were to be asked to do the same thing now, I'm not so sure I would, because I'm a little more rebellious and stuff like that now. It's not always a good thing. It's not always a bad thing.
No.
But anyway, so I climbed down. Everyone else stayed up there. I climbed down. Was like, not necessarily thinking that I'm going to rat anybody else out. And I see the officer, and he's like, how many more people are up there? And I was like, man, I don't want to be no snitch and nothing, you know what I'm saying? And it's like,
I'm sure he appreciated that.
Huh?
I'm sure he appreciated that.
Yeah, well, he said, all right, go back up there and tell everybody else to come down or you're all going to jail. So I went back up there and told everybody to come down. And nothing happened. We just left the building and he locked the door behind us or something. And I just spent the rest of the night being like, I almost went to jail. To myself. And, nothing ever came about it. I kept my job. I don't even think they ever even told anybody, honestly. But the security guards, I don't think they ever told anybody.
I don't think I've ever done
That's my biggest adventure that I can think of off the top of my head.
I don't think I've ever done anything really crazy.
What's the craziest thing, though?
I don't know. Jumped off like a 40 or 50-foot rock into a lake.
Okay.
It's not that crazy. I don't know.
Well, okay, I guess we're going to the next question then, because you just butchered that one.
Well, no, because it's like, I don't think I've done all that many, crazy things.
Did you ever get in a fight?
Yeah.
Who'd you fight? I want their name on the podcast.
Big Tongan dude? No. I won't give you his name. But Big Tongan dude.
Okay.
Choked him out.
Nice.
Because, they thought, oh yeah, small white kid will pick on him.
Uh-huh.
So they picked on me. It's like, I gave him a look of, don't do that again. So they did it again, because football. And,
uh-huh.
And, I put him in a wrestling chokehold.
All right.
And they joined wrestling and then quickly dropped.
Uh-huh.
Which was funny. He was... Yeah. So the first thing people notice about you... I don't know what people notice about you.
Probably that you look Amish.
I have heard that before. That's only when I have facial hair.
Which yeah.
Currently
you have it most of the time now these days, but...
Well, currently do. I've got this funky thing on my chin, so... I do, but... I have thought about just shaving it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I usually look, very bad. It's not... I'm not any different.
Alright, since I answered the question for you, you should answer it for me.
How about you answer it for you, and we'll pretend I answered it for you. I don't know. I would imagine that you're as big as you are. I mean, that's...
Probably.
It stands out.
Yeah.
It does stand out. A lot of the time...
I've always been tall.
Yeah. You've always been tall.
If nothing else.
And you were certainly large.
Yeah.
And that combination is usually what people notice the first time.
Uh-huh.
The first thing. The second thing is that you're goofy.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Who...
I like to think of myself as a sidewalk cracking motherfucker.
You should probably edit that part out. Who do you admire most? Other than cheap answers like Christ or something.
Yeah, Jesus.
Move on.
Jesus doesn't count.
No.
I'm gonna answer with two different people for slightly different reasons. As far as like athleticism is concerned, I'm a big fan of Brian Shaw, 4-time world's strongest man. This dude is a monster. He's 6'8", 450 pounds, and he looks like the Kingpin from Spider-Man. That's what he looks like. I'm also a really big fan of Matt Reynolds. He's the owner of Barbell Logic Online Coaching and co-hosts the Barbell Logic podcast. I've been listening to that podcast for several years now. I'm sure it's partly why I'm starting my own, is inspiration.
I'm sure it's in a small part.
Yeah, and...
Who'd you say it was? Feigenbaum?
No, Matt Reynolds.
No. Who'd you say I was like from that podcast?
Scott Hambrick.
Yeah.
Both just super cynical. But yeah, he's... I've just been listening to his podcast so long that I feel like I kind of know the person he is. Now, I'm not going to pretend I know him personally, because I don't. But I feel like I've gotten a good insight into the kind of person he is. And I'm kind of like, I would like to be friends with this person. He seems like we would agree on so many things. And like he's living a good life, doing the right thing. And what about you?
I've not really thought about it as much, because most people that I could think of would be inappropriate for one reason or another. Like, more insufficient for one reason or another. Yeah, I could say Martin Luther, or I am not, certainly, particularly at the time. The Catholic Church was particularly corrupt at the time, and it was not good at all.
Yeah.
So for him to stand up so prominently, so powerfully, and be used so powerfully in that position.
Yeah.
But he was also an incredible anti-Semite, So that's not...
I don't think I knew that about him.
He was an incredible anti-Semite. Well, I could say if someone like Schwarzenegger came here, from Austria, speaking very poor English, what English he could speak, and he's obviously done well for himself, but his moral character is lacking, as, affairs, etc. have shown.
Yeah.
As well as his lack of a spine when it came to California, being the governor of California, the governator.
So what I'm hearing is that the only people you remotely admire are dead.
Schwarzenegger's alive. He's not dead. I like it. I am particularly impressed by his dedication.
Okay.
He absolutely had been a dedicated man. There's been others that have been like that too. Marcus Aurelius or Seneca. They strike me. Or Diogenes. See, I made the joke, but Diogenes. That was. Yeah, that was a ballsy man.
Yeah.
Or Daniel of the Book of Daniel. I think the thought was we wouldn't cite biblical characters. So. Well, we said not Christ.
Yeah, because everyone should answer Christ.
Everyone should.
It's the Sunday school answer.
It is the Sunday school answer, and that might be the correct answer, but it's not the insightful answer, or that's not the answer to the question that's subtly being asked.
Right. Are there any more of those questions?
Yeah, there's 3.
Okay.
What is your spirit animal?
A lion.
Mine is probably a top fuel racing engine that's being revved up to 1 billion RPM and it just keeps on going. What do you mean it's not an animal?
It's not an animal.
Don't know what you're talking about, dude. Totally an animal. You don't see him. You can totally see him roaming the plains of Africa and the savannah. I don't know what you thought I was going to say.
I shouldn't have expected anything less, actually. I really shouldn't have.
There's another one, but I don't want to answer that question, so I'm not going to ask you that question.
Well, what is it? I'll answer it. You don't have to.
All right. What is your most treasured possession?
Oh. Honestly, right now, it's probably my squat rack that I built with my dad. And honestly, I kind of I kind of put this question on here to bait myself into talking about my dad real quick. So I made a video for the YouTube channel, giving a tour of my new home gym.
Actually, I do have an answer. Who do I admire the most?
You go first.
I would say my father, I think.
Okay. Why?
I just think he's a very upright man. I think he does things. I think he does a lot of things. Very, very well. Very, very rightly. He's very honest. He works. He has a business in a very dishonest industry, and he is very honest. And they have a name for being very honest.
Good.
They have, the pyramid for certain industries is fast, cheap, or right. And you can pick two. Yeah. Maybe. And they choose to do things fast and right. Yeah. Accordingly, it will not be cheap. Mm-hmm. Now, there's only so much not cheap you can be before they don't pick you. Right. But certainly, when it comes to technical or strange or just hard or challenging or big or whatever projects, his company tends to be particularly well suited for it. Yeah. And that requires an amount of acumen on his part as well that inspires me. Mm-hmm. I don't... I've talked with Andrew in some regards about quality of life, and in some ways, you need a certain personality to make certain... There's other things that have to line up, and there is luck that is involved. So it's not like by the bootstraps, to some extent, sure, but in that sort of fortitude is inspiring. Okay, that combination of skills is inspiring. Yeah, like I don't know if it was said on the first episode or if it was said on this. If we grew up and ended up being like our fathers, there could be far worse fates. Right. In our cases. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So, most treasured possession, my squat rack. My dad is a welder by trade. He welded a lot when he was younger. When all this quarantine started and I couldn't go to the gym, I was talking to him on the phone. Hadn't talked to him in a while, and it was just kind of like, yeah, Dad, it just kind of sucks. I can't go to the gym. I can't really do what I enjoy doing. And he just kind of started talking to me like, well, how hard do you think it would be to build a rack for you to use? Not hard. Well, it's not hard, but it's very labor intensive, and we'll get to that. So, I started talking to him about it, and I think I had started looking online at buying a rack, but that the good ones are at least $800. And I just didn't have that much money for it. You can find good ones for a little less than that.
You can find...
Well, in your case, for what you're looking for, maybe perhaps...
Yeah, if you're going to be doing rack pulls with upwards of 600 pounds, you want something a little sturdier than a Titan T3.
Well, I was thinking in terms of like overhead press. Yeah. If you want to do it in the cage.
Uh-huh. I'm tall and I'm doing overhead press and I do them in the squat rack. That's going to require a little more height than a lot of the racks would give.
And those models were definitely picked clean.
Yeah. Right, yeah, that's another aspect of this is it's so hard to find equipment right now. And it was, at the time, very difficult to find equipment because...
Everyone wanted
equipment. Me and about 16 million other Americans were in the same position.
Including me.
Want to go to the gym? Can't.
What are you going to do? Gym. I'll make my own gym. Yeah. With free weights. Uh-huh. Can't say all this stuff on this podcast.
We started looking at building one, and he was able to buy the raw steel to make one with for $300 whereabouts. We just made it out of 2-inch square tubing, 11 gauge steel. And the hardest part about it was drilling all the holes for the J-hooks and the safeties. And I've explained this a million times now, but with as long and tall as this rack was, we had about 26 holes evenly spaced up and down the uprights.
For one side.
So
each pole has, 2 sides that this needs to be drilled for.
So 26 times 2
times 4 because there's 4 of these.
Yeah, that came out to.
Well, that's.
I don't remember the number. Let's do the math right now and embarrass
26
ourselves.
26 times 4. 26 times 4 is 104. Times 2 is 208.
That's right. So 208. Then it wasn't just as simple as drilling the hole itself. You had to pre-drill each hole 4 times.
Well, drill each hole 4 times. Because you had to drill the small, and then a step up, and the last hole.
Then the last
final size.
That's right. So now you've got to do 4 times 208.
Yeah.
Which is 832. Yeah. We drilled 832 holes of various sizes into
this steel.
This 11 gauge steel with a drill press that was technically made for wood. And the worst part about it was, it's not like I could, because my dad also works a manual labor job every day. It's not like he could just go to work and leave me to do most of the drilling during the day. Because I don't have enough experience with the drill press to do that myself. It's a great way
of getting yourself seriously hurt.
Yeah. And so all I could basically do while he drilled was keep the drill bit oiled with a paintbrush. So yeah, we spent hours upon hours upon hours for about a week straight drilling holes into these uprights. Then he had to weld it all together still and bring it to my place, which is about a 4-hour drive for him. And then on top of that, he built the squat rack, which is one of the best squat racks I've ever used. He also helped me build a platform to put the squat rack on. He helped me set up a fence with a gate so that I can lock stuff up and keep everything a little more secure than if I just left it out there. He helped me put up a tarp to keep rain out from under the garage. But I keep saying garage. What my home gym really is, it's under a carport. So it's exposed to the elements. My dad has done a lot for me over the last couple months as far as helping me get this set up. And it's honestly been one of the greatest memories I'll ever have with him. And I think that's part of the reason I say that the squat rack itself is one of my most treasured possessions. Because it's not just that the squat rack's a good squat rack, and it was kind of expensive. It's that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into it as well. Both mine and my dad's part. So I'm going to be hanging on to that rack for a long time.
No reason not to.
Yeah.
Superpower.
Yeah, so if I could have one superpower, it would be flight. I've felt that way for a long time. I would love to just be able to fly.
I don't know if I'd choose super strength, like Mr. Incredible super strength.
Mm-hmm.
And everything associated with it. So it's not like, oh, I'm super strong, but I can't pick anything up because it'll just crush me. Or teleportation, just wherever I want to be.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily always my final destination. I might, or my stated goal. I might be like, oh yeah, I'll go to the school, teleport to the school. Sure, that's nice, but it's also used for other things. Like, I'm going to go skydiving. I don't need a plane.
Right. Or a parachute.
Well.
I guess it depends on how the physics of the teleportation works. Is this like Portal, like the video game Portal teleportation?
I don't know. I was thinking like...
Because that could kind of suck, actually.
That could be super interesting.
Yeah.
You definitely need a parachute. Not necessarily, actually, because you can make the portal moving the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
The wrong way. So it'd be like, oh yeah, you're falling at terminal velocity, so you just have the portal fall at move the other way at terminal velocity.
Mm-hmm. And
you come out of the portal and your net velocity is 0. What do you mean I don't know what you're talking about. It's portal, man. That's how the portals work.
Alright guys, there is the second episode of the Heroic Barbell podcast.
This might be worth splitting into 3.
Maybe. We'll see.
This one into us 2 itself.
Yeah. But thank you guys for listening. Again, if you have questions, we'd like to do a Q&A episode eventually. So please send those questions to heroic.barbell.training@gmail.com. Leave a review if this is on a podcast website. If it's on YouTube, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're not just doing podcasts. I'm also doing some just fun videos about weight training and strength training. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Now you know a little bit about us and too much about us. But anyway, thank you guys one more time for listening, and we'll see you later. Have a good night.